It's 2:30. It's the 25th day of October 2021. It is a gloomy, rainy Monday afternoon here in Ventura, California, as the atmospheric river continues to beat down the doors of California. Guess those fires have been taken care of, at least for now. Now we have to worry about floods. As if you've been following the latest nonsense that I've been experimenting with, we're taking a look at all the races from the 5th edition Player's Handbook. First the core races, and then moving on to all the optional races, and then all the new races that have become available through the various books. So right now we have reached the last of the original 4 races that were introduced in the very beginnings of Dungeons & Dragons: Human, Elf, Dwarf, and Halfling, or Hobbit. The comforts of home are the goals of most halflings' lives, a place to settle in peace and quiet, far from marauding monsters and clashing armies, a blazing fire, and a generous meal. Fine drink and fine conversation. Though some halflings live out their days in the remote agricultural communities, others form nomadic bands that travel constantly, lured by the open road and the wide horizons to discover the wonders of new lands and peoples. But even these wanderers love peace, food, hearth, and home, though home might be a wagon jostling along a dirt road or a raft floating down river. So why are they called halflings and not hobbits? They seem to pretty much be the hobbits from the Lord of the Rings. But yeah, I guess there's something to do with the rights to the name Hobbit. You couldn't call them Hobbit, but you could call them halflings. Who knows? So normal everyday halfling trait is that +2 dexterity score. Halflings reach adulthood around 20 and generally live into the middle of his or her second century, so about 100 to 200 years. Bilbo was 111 at the party, and I believe he was 117. Let's see, yeah, 111 at the party. It was 5 years before Gandalf came back. So 12, 13, 14, 16, and then, yeah, I think he was like 125 when he sailed west. I'd have to check. Of course, now under the new rules, everybody lives to be about 100 years old. Most halflings are lawful good. As a rule, they're good-hearted and kind, hate to see others in pain, and have no tolerance for oppression. I have never seen anyone play a lawful good halfling. They're always chaotic something. They are also very orderly and traditional, leaning heavily on the support of their community and comfort of the old ways. Halflings average about 3 feet tall and weigh about 40 pounds. Your size is small. I think that's changed. Now all races are considered medium in D&D, and you can be whatever size you want. Thus my 7'1" halfling basketball team. Speed, base walking speed is 25. Lucky, when you roll a 1 on a d20 on an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw, you can re-roll the dice and must use the new roll. That is huge. The only thing better would be if they had an ability to share that with somebody else, which I think they do. Brave, you have advantage on saving throws against being frightened. Halfling nimbleness. You can move through the space of any creature that is a size larger than yours. So normally one creature occupies a space on the battle mat for the terms of the mechanics of D&D combat. So if Steve the human is standing in the hex, nobody else can technically move through that hex, but the halfling can. Languages, you can speak, read, write Common and Halfling. The Halfling language isn't secret, but halflings often loathe to share it with others. They write very little, so they don't have a rich body of literature. Their oral tradition, however, is very strong. Almost all halflings speak Common to converse with the people in whose lands they dwell or through which they are traveling. Then we have the 2 sub-races, Lightfoot and Stout. Lightfoots get a charisma bonus +1 and have the naturally stealthy ability, which allows them to hide even when they are only obscured by a creature that is at least one size larger than you. So they can hide in the shadow of another dude, even if it was bright daylight and there was nothing else around to hide behind, as long as there was something bigger than them. Then we have the Stout, who get a +1 to Constitution, and they have a saving throw bonus against poison and have resistance against poison damage as well. So I guess the Stouts are a little bit hardier. I think it's generally believed that Pippin and Merry wore Stouts, and Sam and Frodo wore Lightfoots, if you want to place the races based upon the Lord of the Rings. So there you go, the Halflings, the last, or Hobbits, the last of the original 4. Every race after this was introduced in later books and supplements. First as NPC non-playable races, and then later on as playable races. We had the half-elf, half-orc introduced later on in the production of the hobby. Then, of course, the gnomes. And then, of course, we had things like tieflings and dragonborn and all the other new, wild, wonderful, ridiculous races that have been introduced since the core 4. But the core 4 have always been human, elf, dwarf, halfling. Now you can be a half carrot, I think. Half carrot.